I'm so curious who your fifth
Yeah,
player is and your
I'm
first.
really I'm really excited. I mean, this is kind of I'm selling the next show. I'm really excited for you to hear my top 5 Raiders of all time,
Yeah, I'm
or
excited
top
for it.
5 favorite Raiders of all time.
Right.
I think another video could be like top 5 period, like
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
But um, my number 5 is Hunter Renfro,
Okay.
and I just really love the way that Renfro runs his routes. He's like, to me, like a mini Cooper Cup. And one play that really stands out to me is the play against the Chargers, um, where it was a fake punt, and Renfro realized it early on, and Renfro came charging in, and he hit stuck the receiver, and prevented a conversion.
I lost my goddamn mind when I saw that. I lost my mind. That's one of my favorite plays of all time, period.
Mm.
Continue.
No, it was such a high IQ play. And then, like I said before, Renfro's just got great control over his body. And, you know, uh, he may be traded pretty soon, but I like him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of simmering down on the whole trade idea. I think for them to keep him as long as they have this offseason, I don't see why they would. But maybe the occasion arises, we'll see. But I think if you have him going to training camp, it's like, why would you fucking trade him? Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it just really depends on like trade offers and everything. But I would think that they would keep him just for Garoppolo.
I think he
Like,
fits so well. Yeah.
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 All right. You're number 5.
I think I told you off screen that I was excited to tell you my number 5 player for the Raiders. Something like
Is
that,
it Brian
right?
Hoyer? No.
But I was excited to tell you, like, to get your reaction to my number 5 Raider.
Okay.
I looked this roster up and down. Let me start off by saying when we lost 2 guys this offseason that would have clearly been on this this list, which would have been either Derek Carr or
I think I know who it is.
Darren Waller. Who do you think it is?
I think it's Jimmy Garoppolo.
This is such a genuine reaction. It's like
it was a good guess. No, Michael Mayer.
No, I can't put a rookie. So, like, I mean, this is, I guess, but this is considering, like, having history with this player. For me, for the outside looking in, you might just like a guy because he's good at fantasy or something. For me, it's like, I like them because they're a great Raider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 is Daniel Carlson, the fucking kicker.
That's very interesting.
This dude is fucking money. Dude, he damn near does not miss, and it probably helps that he plays in an indoor or a stadium. But I couldn't believe immediately the first year that he was with us, and this was, I think, dating back to Oakland. Just immediately was kicking money shot after money shot, and I'm like, dude. And he's stuck around for, this is at least his second contract now with us, and I cannot complain about Daniel Carlson. I think he's great. I had him on my fantasy team last year, and I benefited greatly from that. And that's definitely not a big reason for why he's on my list. It's just literally, I was looking at this roster and I had my top 4, and then I was looking for a 5th, and I was like, what the fuck? And yeah, it came down to a kicker, and I'm honestly happy with it.
It's not a bad pick, dude.
No, I think it is a good pick.
It was a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see on the all-time list. We might see another kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little hint, but we might not.
Mm-hmm. So I think I know who your next 4 are.
It's in some order, probably, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So number 4 for me is Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
And I just really love the way that Josh Jacobs runs the ball. He runs pretty hard, and like you said, he was the leading rusher last year. And I never had him in fantasy, but just seeing the way that he jumped, and like had that leap in you know from 2021 to 2022. It's like,
Mm.
he's just kind of been like on a steady rise, I feel like. And I kind of feel like he's underrated a little bit.
Yeah.
But
no, I think so.
yeah. I mean, he's just he in a way kind of reminds me of Frank Gore a little bit. But I mean, two completely different players.
Yeah.
But I also, I mean, what prompted me to pick Josh Jacobs was I really like his backstory. How he was once homeless, and so he had to really overcome some adversity in his life to be where he's at right now, and I really admire that. And while I don't necessarily like think that teams should pay running backs, I fully support Josh Jacobs for pursuing his, the money that he's earned.
Yep.
So I salute Josh Jacobs, and I kick it off to you.
Okay, that was your number 4, right?
It's my number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, though, I mean, the one thing I'll add to that is, like, way earlier in this podcast, actually, at the beginning, I mentioned Saquon Barkley and how it seemed like the coverage on his contract is getting way more literally coverage than Josh Jacobs. And that's because Saquon Barkley's the big name, and for some reason, Josh Jacobs is not.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the now defending rushing title holder in the NFL, and he should be treated with a little bit more, I wouldn't say respect, but like,
a little bit more praise than he gets. He's like,
yeah, praise and
like
attention,
if you're
attention.
Attention, yeah. Like if you're thinking about like top tier running backs in the NFL, like I don't know why I kind of feel like people have this vibe over Josh Jacobs, but like let's just say you're naming off like Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, you go down the list of like elite players, and like if somebody mentions Josh Jacobs, I don't know why he kind of gets treated like the socks and underwear of like elite running backs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I'm glad to have this. I appreciate this player, but he's not as cool as the other guys.
Yeah, I just realized something that I will say when it eventually happens. Sorry, I was paying attention. I just I'll get back to it. My number 4. This is my number 4, right? Yeah. Hunter Renfrow. And I can honestly say that Hunter Renfrow could have easily been my number 2. It's kind of that close, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it probably isn't. I think in a different way, similar to Deebo Samuel. I think Hunter Renfrow had a down year this past season. He also had an injury-riddled season that really hindered him, and like it didn't make me think differently of him. It's just that I didn't look at him as this like should be Pro Bowl type receiver. It was more of like, okay, he's not like a year or two ago he was like our number 1 receiving target for Derek Carr, and he got over 1,000 yards. I don't know how many touchdowns, but he was great, and I was like, dude, he can do it. And then it's like, no, he's a slot receiver. I'm not trying to diminish him, dude. Like you said, that play against the Chargers where he was the punt returner and he just fucking lit the dude up to make him not catch the ball right on the line to gain. It was like a thing of fucking beauty. Again, well, I mean, that's not something you expect for a receiver to be like that versatile, but again, versatility, and just being smart. Like, he's a smart player. And like you mentioned, like you and I have talked about this, he has such insane body control. Like, some receivers or players have certain things about their game that is so specific and special. And to me, Hunter Renfro's special attribute is his body control. Like, he's not overly shifty. He's not super fast. It's just once he gets the ball, it's his body control and his field awareness. He can quickly gauge who is where and what move he needs to make one guy miss. And it makes a huge difference. It goes from a 3-yard gain to a 8-yard gain. Easy. And I do think he's underrated, but I also think that, he's coming off of a down year, and I'm just curious to see what happens, But I fucking adore him as a player and as a Raider. So.
All right.
And also, like, somewhat similar, but not quite like Christian McCaffrey, his professionalism and just personality is just, like, top notch. Continue.
I haven't, really dug into Renfro's, professionalism or personality that much. I just, based on the way he plays, this is the reason why I chose him at number 5.
Yeah.
My number 3, and I might want to flip flop my number 3 and my number 2, but my number 3 is Max Crosby. Yeah. I think Max Crosby, he's an elite pass rusher. He's very quick and shifty. He kind of reminds me of Nick Bosa, but I would say quicker and maybe less powerful and, than Bosa. But he's still, he gets after quarterbacks as well. And I think it's really cool that Max Crosby, he took a team-friendly deal when it was his time to get paid. He's getting paid good money, but I feel like he could have gotten more money. Like, if I'm just being honest, he could have probably gotten a couple more million per year out of the Raiders, and he didn't. And I also just admire his story about being sober. And it's pretty inspirational, and for that, Max Crosby has my respect.
Yeah, I think, again, if Darren Waller was still on this roster, it would make it a lot more hard for me, because there would have been 6 guys if you include Derek Carr. Like, I wouldn't know how to rank them, and chances are it might be Renfro that isn't on my top 5. And Waller and Carr, replace him at Carlson. But yeah, I agree on Crosby. I'll say, for a comparison, I really look at Crosby and I see the second coming of Jared Allen from the Vikings.
I thought you were going to say the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Well, for the Raiders, maybe.
I was like, wow, that's very deep, Mike.
Yeah.
You really like Max Crosby.
I sure do. But I mean, you could see that, right? Jared Allen. You remember Jared Allen?
Jared Allen.
His sack celebration was he would get on one knee and he would go like this. He would go like that and then like that.
Maybe if I saw.
Yeah, he was number 69 for the Vikings.
Maybe.
He was a fucking animal. He was just nonstop motor. Fucking just destroy offensive linemen. And, 10 plus sacks, for 6 years in a row or some shit. He was great. So then that means it's my turn for my number 3, right?
It is.
My number 3 and my number 2, literally as you were like saying things during this podcast, I was still alternating my number 3 and my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with what's on my notes right now,
Yeah.
but by week 4 it could change, you know.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Josh Jacobs, and yeah, I mean, I adore Josh Jacobs. We've talked a lot about him on this podcast, and obviously, I hope he stays with the Raiders. I mean, he's one of my top 3 favorite Raiders. He's always ran hard. I loved his tape coming out of college. I was just like, dude, he had a play against I think it was Georgia, but it might have been somebody else where he just lowered his head and just fucking destroyed a guy to get into the end zone. I was just like, oh my god. And then there was like his rookie year, he had some like sensational highlight plays that wouldn't make it on ESPN, but like when you're watching it live, you just go, oh, oh my god! Like the way he runs through dudes, he just lowers his fucking head, hits the dude with the shoulder, and just fucking blows him back 5 yards.
And one thing I wanted to say, since we're on the topic of Josh Jacobs, is I know I made the Frank Gore comparison earlier, and I think part of the reason why I made that comparison, less about maybe their play style, but more about like how under the radar they, the players kind of go.
Yeah.
Frank Gore, I felt like was, a little underappreciated.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Frank Gore's a Hall of Famer easily, statistically, and nobody would think that. Yeah. Just from the name.
But he was kind of like, shadowed behind Adrian Peterson for like all those years. And
yeah. There were so many other players, big name guys, that it was it was hard for him to really shine, but it was like every single week I think that was the thing. He never had like a big spike game. It was like every week Frank Gore was just like perfectly consistent, every single week.
For like 16 years.
Yeah. And the thing that my stepdad is a big Niner fan. For the viewers, you already know that, but
yeah, me too.
Josh, you already know that. Yeah. But and the thing that he said about Frank Gore that like is 100% true is that Frank Gore would always fall forward every play. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't matter how many dudes hit him, he was gaining a yard. Like that was just something that always stuck with me. I was like, yeah, like, and I would watch and pay attention. It's like, yeah, he does. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say the same about Josh Jacobs, but Josh Jacobs is an exceptional runner, and again, I appreciate the fuck out of him. And he's always ran hard for the Raiders. And, there were times where he had like injured ribs and shit, and he was still out there. Or I think it was his shoulder. He popped a dude against the Packers, led with his shoulder. He might have dislocated his shoulder. That was his rookie season. It was like week 7. Played the rest of the season. Maybe he missed one game, but he played through that shit, and he was like the bell cow,
Mm-hmm.
It's like shit like that where it's like, yeah, dude, that's what I'm talking about. And then again, being the league's leading rusher last season, like, it's just awesome.
Mm-hmm. So, my number 2, we're on number 2 right now, right?
Yes,
my number 2, and like I said, part of me would probably swap this with number 3. My number 2 is Davante Adams.
Oh my god. Okay, I know what you're doing here. Continue.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I really can't thank Davante Adams enough for helping me win a fantasy championship. I don't know if you have that beautiful trophy in the background, but I will win it back. Oh my.
There he is, right there.
Do you miss me? No. All right. I don't remember if Devontae helped me win 1 or 2 championships, but I just think in all seriousness, um, it's crazy how dominant Devontae Adams is as a route runner, and he makes those contested catches, um, and he's just he's fun to watch, and uh, you know I don't really have much else to say, but thank you, Devontae.
I'll be quick on my number 2 as well because it's also Devontae Adams. Um, the one specific thing, because we talked about him earlier, and he's a special receiver. I think he's the top receiver in football. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a San Jose State football game against Fresno State with my uncle back in 2013, and Derek Carr was the quarterback. And the guy that I wanted to see live in person, other than Derek Carr at quarterback, was Devontae Adams because he led. I'm pretty sure he led all of college football receivers in touchdowns. And I remember, him coming out of college and hoping that he would fall to the Raiders in the 3rd round so that they could get Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. And he goes, I believe, in the late 2nd round to the Packers. And I was like, all right, well, I hope he does good, And then he goes to the Packers and he's sitting behind, I think, still Greg Jennings. I might be wrong. Definitely Jordy Nelson. And those sorts of guys, Randall Cobb. And it was like, fuck, he's kind of buried, on this roster. And then finally a couple of those guys kind of age out. And then it was like, oh, Devontae Adams is like the 3rd receiver. And I remember it was like late in the season, he had a game against like the Bears or something where out of nowhere he caught like 11 passes, 160 yards, and like 2 touchdowns. And it was like, oh shit, nice, And then the next season, maybe late the next season, he just started fucking taking off with Aaron Rodgers. And it was like, never looked back. Best receiver in football.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've had a long history with Devontae Adams. In fact, I will say one more thing. Remember, and this is kind of funny, but whatever. We played franchise mode on Madden together in the same connected franchise mode, right? And it was the off season, or we played our season, and then we went into the off season. I told you, I was like, I'm telling you, dude, Devontae Adams will be a Raider. Like I'm gonna trade for Devontae Adams in Madden because I'm guaranteeing you this is realistic. Because I hate playing franchise mode and like blowing up the team and trading for Lamar Jackson and like making it my way. Like I want it to feel realistic because it's simulated football, right? I want it to feel real. I want it to. That's how it's fun to me,
Oh, dude, the new
to feel like you earned the win. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually think they released a new trailer for the new Madden today, and stuff they're improving actually looked pretty good. So I was actually shocked, but maybe by next year's Madden, that stuff won't even look that impressive. But the blocking looked much better. I think that was and then the player models looked better. So that was definitely something that enticed me. Is it okay if I move on to number 1?
Yes, sir.
My number 1 is Daniel Carlson. No, I'm just playing. My number 1 is Jimmy Pornstar Garoppolo.
Yeah, I knew. Okay, that's when I was laughing. I'm like, you're number 4. I was like thinking in my head, like, who the fuck are his top 3? Because I couldn't even find a 5th person other than a fucking kicker. And then I go, oh my god, it's Jimmy G, dude.
Yeah. It's Jimmy G, and it has really little to do with anything about the Raiders. Just the fact that he's on the Raiders. There was a point in time where Jimmy Garoppolo was my favorite player, even over George Kittle. As much as it was already like time for the Niners and Jimmy Garoppolo to part ways, I still really like him. And I can honestly say that he's the player on the Raiders that I'm most excited to watch this season. I think I mentioned it earlier. But I want to see what Jimmy is like without Kyle Shanahan, and at this point in his career, and I want to see if he can lead a team, without Kyle Shanahan, or like a great supporting cast. I'm just very interested by that, because like I want to see him, succeed. Like I think it would be like I know that kind of sounds like stupid to say as a 49er fan, because it's like, why would you want him to succeed if he's no longer on the team? Or why didn't you want him to succeed while he was on the team? I did want him to succeed while he was on the team. I just, with the investment that they made in the other quarterback that I spent like already an hour talking about earlier, um, I just I didn't think that Jimmy Garoppolo would be able to deliver the Super Bowl that we needed. But that doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo can't deliver a positive experience for the Raiders and the Raider fans. Um, I found, I have like various like fond memories of the Jimmy Garoppolo era. And even though he wasn't a perfect quarterback or anywhere near a perfect quarterback, he ushered in a winning culture, because before him, they were like 1-10. And then they finished the season 6-10 when he started, when he started. So he finished 5-0, obviously got that big payday. But I think Raider fans can get excited about the possibility of Jimmy Garoppolo establishing a different culture in the locker room. And it'll be something a little bit different than you guys have had like over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, the Derek Carr era is over, and that, that's kind of sad, but in a way you can kind of appreciate something new. And, whether things improve in the win and loss column or not, you're signing up for a whole different experience.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you talk about Jimmy G definitely does excite me to see how it goes, because I think, like you said, what matters, I don't expect him to win us a fucking Super Bowl, but I do look at him as like a pretty damn good bridge quarterback, which is kind of in a way similar to how I felt about Derek Carr the past season or two. But I feel like Derek Carr's the better quarterback. But like you say, Garoppolo might provide the better cultural experience for the team, and perhaps in that provide a positive that the team needs, leading towards the future. And I know there are a lot of Raider fans who have just over time, and you can't blame them, I definitely don't blame them, have become absolutely impatient with the idea of like, oh, really another bridge quarterback, or like, really we have to wait 3 more years for a new regime to like figure it out, blah, 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 to like become Super Bowl contenders. I get it, but like, if they do it right, it's like, it's a matter of, okay, would you rather, and again, this is all theoretical and nothing's perfect, and knowing the Raiders, it won't be perfect, but like, would you rather them get it right and become the next Kansas City Chiefs? Or would you rather be, let's just say the Philadelphia Eagles don't go back to the Super Bowl the next 10 years. Would you rather be the Philadelphia Eagles for a year or be the Chiefs for 10 years? I know I'd rather be the fucking Chiefs. So you got to do things right to get to that point. It takes fucking development. So it's a system. You got to build the system.
Yeah.
And he will help do that.
Yeah. And then, he can establish a culture, I feel like. And I mean, unless the Raiders are just so fucked and stuck in their like, in their ways, you know what I mean? But he's the next. I mean, I wouldn't say Jimmy would be like the face of the franchise for the Raiders, but like the quarterback is typically like always like the face of the team. But I've seen teams where it's not about the quarterback. Like my headset just died. Give me 1 second.
You're good. I mean, a team that isn't isn't centric on the quarterback might be like
The 49ers.
yeah, but the quarterback's so interesting to them. I think maybe really looking
Is it
back, it'd be
echoing?
like no.
Oh,
Really
sweet.
looking back, it'd be like the Ravens with Dilfer or the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson. I think recently, maybe just because I pay attention so much,
Mhm.
I'd say a team might be like, man, what's a playoff team that made it? So like, really, they made it
They made it to what? Sorry.
to the playoffs. Like maybe, fuck. I feel like I'm taking too long on this. Like, I know I get your point, and I don't know. I can't think of a current example of a team that's like the quarterback isn't a like top 3 face on the team,
Well,
or a big reason why they made the playoffs. I guess I don't know.
the 49ers.
Yeah, but then Brock Purdy, it's like he became the face of the Niners the end of last season, easily.
Yeah. A
I'd
team.
say, I would say like the Steelers didn't make the playoffs, but Kenny Pickett is in the face of that team.
Okay. Is your criteria a top 3 player on the team?
No, I guess just like a top 3, like popular pop culture, if you will.
The Rams, when they won the Super Bowl, technically, I would say that Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and Jalen Ramsey were all more popular than Matt Stafford.
Yeah. I mean, that's solid. Yeah. I would say, yeah, no, that's a good one because like if Jimmy G were successful, I'd say he'd be about the same popularity as Stafford, if not actually more, because he's got like the pretty face and all that.
I've got a great example, but it's not a playoff team. It was
Yeah.
almost a playoff team. The Detroit Lions.
Yes.
The Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. Although I would say Geno might have become kind of a face because it's like, dude, Geno, holy fuck. But yes, Goff is the perfect example. Yes. That's good. Yeah, I mean,
No,
yeah.
let's analyze more, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. It's 2 a.m.
Fuck me.
Sorry, Mike.
No, you're good. You're good. My number 1 is Max Crosby. That's not a shock. Maximum Overdrive. Yes, that is Max Crosby at all times, dude. I mean, I don't really have too much to say. I just appreciate this dude's motor. Like, I want every player on the Raiders. Like you said, you want every player to be a bully. I want every player on the Raiders to have a motor and drive and like literally a will to win, like Max Crosby has. He is the epitome of what I want a Raider to be. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I said what I said about Max Crosby, so I definitely have a lot of respect for him. So, I am inclined to agree.
Yeah, he's a fucking leader, and he also leads by example, like to the fullest degree.
He does lead by example.
As far as
honorable mentions,
I actually don't have one. I would say the closest thing I have to an honorable mention right now is the punter, AJ Cole.
Mhm.
Like looking at the roster, I hope for a guy like Nate Hobbs to become one of those honorable mentions. I hope for Tyree Wilson to quickly become a top 5 player for me. The first round pick, and Michael Mayer, I think that they should. After that, it's like, we'll fucking see, maybe Colton Miller, but
I would, when I think of Colton Miller, exactly what I think about.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry to the viewers at home. I will never be able to disclose that, the reasoning behind that. It is a picture of Colton Miller, and that's all I have to say.
See, I was thinking of two things. It's either that picture that is heavily photoshopped,
or the fact that every single time Colton Miller would get brought up, I would say Colton Miller was a steal at 15.
Yeah.
Sarcastically, and then
Yes.
Colton Miller turned out to be like a good draft pick.
Yeah, like all things considered, I don't know, I wouldn't put him as a steal, but like he was worth more than that 15th overall pick, I'd say.
No, I know, but I was just saying he was a steal at 15 because I know you weren't excited about the pick at the time.
No. I wanted Derwin James so fucking bad. I wanted Derwin James. He goes like the pick after us to the Chargers, to our division rival. I was like, bro, oh my God. But left tackle is the more important position, and Derwin James, he's like a George Kittle, not to get off track, but he's like, when he's healthy, top 10 player in the NFL. Yeah, but he's not always healthy. So,
anyways, I think that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage everybody to please comment, like, and subscribe. We've been really enjoying interacting with you guys in the comment sections. If you have any thoughts about anything that we said in today's video or any future videos, please don't hesitate to comment. We really appreciate it. And we take the time to really read those and, think of thoughtful and insightful, replies. So, without further ado, I think we're done. Have a good night, Mike.
One thing, dude. We went into this episode
thinking it was going to be an hour.
This is going to be our shortest episode. We don't even have that many topics to talk about. This is, again, just like the second episode, our longest episode. Our next episode is going to be 4 hours at this rate.
Yeah. So that's why when I asked you if you wanted to do the rankings, I think that might have been 2 hours ago. I don't even know, dude.
No, it might have been 1 hour ago.
Yeah.
1 hour.
But
still.
I think we would have been cool if we would have just did all the rankings in one video. But I mean, splitting it up. Spoiler alert, next time we're doing another ranking video. As you can tell by the title of this stream, this is part 1.
Yeah.
I think part 2 should be the last of ranking our favorite players. And yeah. I mean, I got nothing else to say.
Yeah, I'd say our next episode will be part 2, and then after that we should be getting pretty close to training camp, and then we'll be hearing more things and seeing more things. So, can't wait.
Well, with all that being said, God bless America.
And God bless the Raiders and the Niners.